The stars stretched far and wide in the endless darkness of space. Deep inside the Great Space Observatory on Earth, a small team of scientists stared at their screens. They had been watching the same strange signal for days now. It was not like anything they had ever seen before. The signal was weak at first, just a faint pulse in the radio waves. But over time, it grew stronger and clearer. It came from a faraway place, a planet nobody on Earth had ever visited. The planet was rough, wild, and full of danger. But now it was sending a call for help. Dr. Mira Shah, the lead scientist, looked at the data again and again. Her heart beat faster. The signal was not random. It was a message. Someone was asking for help. But why? And from whom? She stood up and walked to the room where the military officers waited. They had been called to hear the news. The room was quiet but tense. The commanders knew the meaning of such a signal. It could mean war. The Warfleet commander, Captain James Rourke, listened carefully. "If this is real and someone is in danger, we must answer," he said, his voice strong and clear. "We cannot let fear stop us." But some leaders in the government were afraid. They wanted to keep Earth safe and stay out of trouble. "It could be a trap," one said. "We don't know who is sending this message or what their enemies might do." The debate lasted for hours. Should Earth send ships into the unknown? Should they risk a war for strangers in a faraway place? While the leaders argued, the spy watched and listened. No one knew who the spy was, but someone inside the walls of power wanted to stop the mission. The spy sent secret messages to the enemy, warning them that Earth was coming. Back at the observatory, Mira and her team worked day and night. The signal had changed. Now it carried images, strange symbols and faces of creatures never seen before. They looked tired, scared, and desperate. One night, Mira heard a loud alarm. The enemy warships had sent a message too, a warning to Earth: stay away or face destruction. But Earth's warfleet was ready. Ships were built, weapons tested, and crews trained. The best pilots and soldiers waited for the command to launch. The air was thick with fear and hope. Finally, the order came. The fleet left Earth's orbit and flew toward the unknown. The stars shone cold and bright outside the windows. The journey would be long and dangerous, but the fleet was ready to face whatever came. As they moved into deep space, strange things began to happen. Mysterious signals, sudden system failures, and whispers of fear among the crew. The spy's work was not done. The fleet commander gathered his officers. "We must stay strong. We are the hope for those who called us. We will fight, and we will win." The signal was no longer just a message. It was a call to action, a spark that would light the fire of an epic battle. Humanity's war had begun. The Warfleet was now far from Earth, traveling through a vast sea of stars. The silence of space surrounded them like a heavy blanket. Inside the ships, the crews were restless. The unknown lay ahead, and fear mixed with hope in every heart. Captain James Rourke stood on the command deck of the lead ship. His eyes scanned the endless darkness outside the window. He thought about the signal that had brought them here, a silent plea for help from a place no one truly understood. What dangers waited on that distant planet? Would they find friends or enemies? Below, the crews worked in tight spaces. They checked engines, repaired small damages from the launch, and kept weapons ready, just in case. Every day, the same question grew louder in their minds. What would they face when they arrived? The fleet moved in formation, a small line of shining metal cutting through space. The ships were large, strong, and filled with the best technology Earth had to offer, but no machine, no matter how powerful, could prepare the crews for the unknown. One evening, in the quiet of the command room, Lieutenant Sarah Kim studied the navigation charts. She was young but sharp, with a mind that never stopped working. The strange signals from the planet still puzzled her. There were strange patterns hidden in the waves, almost like a code waiting to be broken. Suddenly, the ship's alarms beeped softly. Sarah's fingers flew over the controls. "Captain, we are detecting an unknown vessel nearby," she said, her voice steady but alert. James moved closer to the screen. The blip on the radar was small and fast. Could it be a scout? Or maybe a probe sent by the enemy? He wondered. Aloud. The crew held their breath. The unknown visitor moved closer, then suddenly disappeared from the radar. No messages came through the comms. It was like the ship was playing a dangerous game of hide-and-seek. Tensions grew as rumors spread among the crews. Some whispered that this was a trap, that the signal itself was a lure. Others believed that help might come from unexpected places. Meanwhile, inside the warship, something more troubling was happening. The spy who had leaked Earth's plans before was still at work. Small systems failed without reason, messages were delayed, and strange noises echoed through the corridors at night. No one knew where the problems came from, but the sense of danger was growing. Captain James called his closest officers together. "We have to be ready for anything," he said. "Trust is our greatest weapon now. If we doubt each other, we will fail." The officers nodded, their faces serious. They knew the weight of their mission. They were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the honor of humanity. Days passed slowly. The fleet crossed through empty space, but the feeling of being watched never left them. Every shadow, every flicker of light on the screens made the crews jump. Then one night a message came through. It was faint, barely more than a whisper in the vast silence of space. The signal was from the distant planet, but it was not a call for help. This time, it was a warning. The voice was weak but clear. "They are coming. Prepare yourselves. The enemy is closer than you think." The crew stared at the glowing screen. Fear tightened their chests. The warning meant only one thing. The battle was near. Captain James stood tall. "We will face them," he said with quiet strength. "We carry the hopes of Earth with us. We will not fail." The fleet moved faster now, every moment filled with purpose. The unknown was no longer just a place on a map. It was a shadow waiting in the dark, and the war was about to begin. The fleet had finally reached the edge of the hostile planet's atmosphere. Outside the ship's windows, the view was both breathtaking and terrifying. Jagged mountains pierced. The thick swirling clouds and vast deserts stretched beyond the horizon. The planet was wild and untamed, a place where nature ruled without mercy. It was nothing like Earth, rough, harsh, and unpredictable. Captain James Rourke stood quietly on the bridge, watching the planet grow larger with every passing moment. His crew worked efficiently around him, but beneath their calm faces, tension simmered. Everyone knew the dangers that awaited them here were more than just physical. The unknown held many secrets, and secrets could be deadly. The war fleet began its slow descent. Ships spread out carefully, avoiding the thickest storm clouds and rocky mountain peaks. Communication signals flickered weakly through the dense atmosphere, making coordination difficult. The crews relied on training and trust more than ever. Below, the planet's surface was scarred. Huge craters, broken cities, and twisted metal lay scattered like the remains of some ancient disaster. It was clear that something had fought here before. But what? And where were the survivors? Suddenly, a small shuttle landed near the fleet's base camp. Out stepped a group of alien beings, their skin pale and marked with strange patterns. Their eyes told stories of pain and fear. They spoke cautiously, their voices low and urgent. They were the last survivors of the planet's original inhabitants. The aliens warned the fleet about a powerful enemy warlord who had taken control of their world. This warlord was ruthless, using advanced technology and strategies that the fleet had never seen. He had destroyed much of the planet and was now preparing to attack any outsiders who dared to help. Captain Rourke listened carefully, absorbing every word. The situation was worse than anyone had imagined, but retreat was not an option. The call for help was real, and humanity had answered it. Back on the ships, strange incidents began to occur. Systems malfunctioned at critical moments. Supplies were misplaced, and shadows seemed to move where no one should be. The spy was still among them, working silently to sabotage the mission. Suspicion grew, but no one knew whom to trust. The fleet's officers held secret meetings trying to root out the traitor. The tension was like a storm ready to break. Every glance and every word carried hidden meaning. Meanwhile, the warlord's forces prepared for battle. Scouts reported that enemy ships were gathering near the planet's largest crater, a place that had once been a thriving city. The enemy was ready, waiting for the fleet to make its move. Captain Rourke stood on the observation deck watching, the dark shapes moving in the distance. He thought about the journey that had brought them here, the sacrifices already made, and the battles still to come. The weight of responsibility pressed on his shoulders, but his resolve was firm. "We will not let fear control us," he said softly to himself. "We fight for those who cannot fight. We fight for hope." The fleet prepared to land troops on the surface. Soldiers trained hard, checked their gear, and steeled themselves for the unknown. The planet was dangerous, but giving up was never an option. As the ships touched down, the storm above rumbled like a warning. The battle for the planet had begun, but this was only the beginning. The real fight was yet to come. The silent forests, the ruined cities, and the vast deserts held secrets and dangers that no one could predict. Every step forward was a step into mystery. Every shadow could hide a friend or a foe, and somewhere in the darkness, the spy waited, ready to strike again. The fleet's mission was clear: protect the survivors, defeat the warlord, and bring peace. But in this wild, broken world, nothing was certain. The story of humanity's courage and strength was being written with every breath, every step, and every choice. The unknown planet was a test, not just of weapons or technology, but of will, heart, and hope. The journey had reached a new chapter, and the future was still uncertain. The battle was beginning to take shape far above the planet's surface, where the war fleet moved like a silver wave across the dark sky. Captain James Rourke stood at the heart of the command ship, feeling the hum of the engines beneath his feet and the nervous energy of the crew around him. The enemy ships had gathered near the great crater, their shapes sharp against the swirling clouds below. The war fleet was smaller in number, but it held a secret strength: the ingenuity and spirit of its people. The fleet was not just machines and weapons. It was the courage of every crew member, every pilot, and every officer who believed in the mission. That belief was the true power they carried. The enemy moved first. Silent shadows slipped through the atmosphere, trying to surround the fleet. But Earth's ships were ready. Pilots launched from their hangars, weaving through the dark sky with skill and precision. Bright lights flashed as the fleets danced in the space above the planet, a careful game of movement, strategy, and timing. Inside the command ship, tension grew. The crew worked quickly, communicating in short bursts, each person focused on their task. Captain Rourke's eyes never left the screens, watching the enemy's moves and sending orders with steady confidence. "Stay tight," he said. "Use the environment to your advantage. Don't let them predict your next move." The battle was not just about force. It was about thinking ahead, about reading the enemy's intentions before they acted. Earth's fleet used the planet's storms and rocky peaks as cover, disappearing and reappearing like ghosts in the mist. Below, on the planet's surface, teams of soldiers prepared for their part in the fight. They knew the sky battle was only the first challenge. The enemy had strongholds hidden in the ruins, and the ground forces would have to face dangers that the fleet could not see from space. The soldiers moved carefully, checking their equipment and sharing quiet words of encouragement. Among them was Lieutenant Sarah Kim, who had proven herself time and again with her calm mind and quick thinking. She understood the importance of the mission, not just the fight, but the hope it represented. Back in space, the fleet made its move. Captain Rourke ordered a sudden change in formation. The ships split, moving in different directions, confusing the enemy and forcing them to react. The enemy fleet responded, but Earth's forces held the advantage of surprise. The sky lit up, with streaks of light as ships exchanged signals and moved swiftly through the clouds. No one spoke loudly. Every sound was the quiet pulse of machines working in perfect harmony. Then, an unexpected moment. One of Earth's ships picked up a signal, a small hidden message from the planet's survivors. It was a clue to the enemy's weakness, a secret that could turn the tide. Captain Rourke smiled for the first time in days. "This is our chance," he said quietly. "We will use their own secret against them." The battle shifted. Earth's fleet pressed forward, targeting key enemy positions with precision. Ships moved like shadows, striking quickly and then disappearing before the enemy could respond. The enemy began to retreat, but they left behind traps, hidden dangers in the form of strange devices scattered across the planet's surface. These devices were not meant to harm directly, but to disrupt communication and control. The fleet's engineers worked fast to disable the devices, while the soldiers on the ground prepared for the next phase of the mission. Trust and teamwork became their strongest weapons. Throughout the battle, moments of quiet courage shone like stars. A pilot helped a teammate who was caught in a difficult spot. A technician fixed a critical system under pressure. A soldier risked everything to protect a group of survivors. Captain Rourke knew this was more than a fight. It was a story of humanity's heart, showing the world that no matter how dark the night, the light of hope could never be extinguished. As the enemy forces withdrew, the fleet gathered once again. The battle was not over, but a new path was clear. The enemy's power had been challenged and Earth's fleet had proven their strength. The silent skies above the planet held a promise. The fight would continue, but so would the courage and spirit of those who stood together. Captain Rourke looked out at the stars and thought of Earth, a small blue dot filled with life and hope, sending its war fleet into the unknown. The mission was far from finished, but one thing was certain: humanity would never give up. The journey was just beginning, and the future waited, full of challenge, mystery, and the unbreakable will to survive. The war fleet had settled into a tense rhythm. The sky above the wild planet was a canvas of swirling clouds and distant stars, but beneath the calm surface, the tension was thick and heavy. Captain James Rourke paced slowly on the command deck, his thoughts heavy with the weight of the mission. Every decision he made could change the course of their journey, and the fate of the survivors who had called for help. The crew had grown closer in the weeks since arrival. Faces that were once strangers now held stories of courage and hope. Among them was Lieutenant Sarah Kim, whose steady mind and calm spirit had become a source of strength for many. She had spent long hours studying the enemy's movements and the strange devices scattered across the planet's surface. The puzzle they faced was complex, but with each day, the picture became clearer. One morning, an unusual signal arrived on the fleet's communication channels. It was faint, almost hidden beneath the noise of the planet's storms, but unmistakable. The message was encrypted, full of strange codes and patterns that took time to unravel. The fleet's best cryptographers worked quickly, their fingers flying over keyboards trying to unlock the secrets hidden inside. As the code slowly revealed itself, hope began to grow. The message was from a small group of survivors deep inside the planet's forests, a place untouched by the warlord's reach. They carried knowledge that could turn the tide of the conflict, information about ancient technology left behind by the planet's first inhabitants. Captain Rourke gathered his officers. "This is our chance to learn, to gain the advantage we need," he said with quiet determination. "We must reach these survivors and bring their knowledge back to the fleet." The mission was not simple. The forests were dense and dangerous, filled with unknown creatures and hidden traps left by the enemy. A team was assembled, including Sarah Kim and several of the fleet's best scouts and engineers. They would travel down to the surface, moving carefully through the thick undergrowth. The descent was difficult. The shuttle bounced through turbulent air and the thick canopy blocked much of the sunlight. The forest was alive with strange sounds, calls and rustles that kept the team alert. Every step brought new challenges, but also new discoveries. Strange plants glowed softly in the dark, and ancient ruins hinted at a forgotten history. After hours of careful travel, the team reached a clearing where the survivors waited. They were a small group, tired but determined. Their leader, an elder with bright eyes and a calm voice, greeted the newcomers with cautious hope. "We have been waiting for you," the elder said. "The warlord's power is great, but it is not absolute. The ancient technology we guard can help you. It is the key to restoring balance." The survivors showed the team strange devices, machines that seemed to hum with energy, their purpose unclear but powerful. The technology was unlike anything the fleet had seen. It held the promise of peace but also the risk of great change. As the team studied the devices, they realized that the warlord's forces were not just powerful because of weapons. They controlled the planet with fear and control over the land itself. The ancient machines could disrupt that control, but using them required knowledge and trust. Back in the fleet, the crew prepared for what would come next. The warlord was gathering strength again, and the battle was far from over. But now, with new allies and ancient knowledge, hope burned brighter than ever. Captain Rourke stood on the deck, looking at the stars. The journey had tested them all, their courage, their will, and their faith in one another. The story of humanity was still being written, and the next chapter was about to unfold. The forest held secrets and challenges, but also the chance for a new beginning. The team's mission was clear: learn, prepare, and fight for the future they believed in. The war fleet waited, ready to face the unknown once more. The light of hope shone in the darkness, and the story continued, a tale of strength, unity, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The war fleet held its breath in the quiet space above the planet as preparations for the final phase of their mission unfolded. The long journey, filled with uncertainty and challenge, had brought them here, on the brink of a moment that could decide the fate of many lives. Captain James Rourke stood firmly on the command deck, feeling the weight of hope and responsibility in every decision made. This was more than just a mission. It was a promise made to those who had called for help and to humanity itself. The fleet's new allies from the forest had joined the preparations. Their knowledge of ancient technology was a mystery slowly unfolding, and the devices they brought held secrets that could change everything. The engineers worked tirelessly to understand how to harness that power, blending it with Earth's technology to create something stronger than either had alone. Lieutenant Sarah Kim watched the engineers closely. She had learned much from the survivors about the planet and its past. There was a sense of deep connection, like the planet itself was alive, waiting to be understood and respected. She felt the responsibility of carrying that knowledge forward, not just as a soldier but as a protector. As the fleet prepared to move closer to the enemy's stronghold, a sense of calm settled over the crew. It was not the calm of ignorance, but the calm of readiness, of knowing that what lay ahead was difficult, but also necessary. The enemy had retreated to a fortress carved into the heart of the largest mountain, a place surrounded by storms and treacherous cliffs. It was a fortress built not only on strength but on control over the land itself. The warlord's hold on the planet was tied to this place, and breaking that hold was the key to peace. The plan was simple, yet risky. The fleet would use the ancient technology to disrupt the enemy's control systems while ground teams advanced to secure the fortress. It was a test of trust and timing, where every move had to be perfect. As the ships moved into position, communication channels buzzed with quiet confidence and final checks. Captain Rourke spoke to his team, his voice steady but full of encouragement. "This is the moment we have prepared for. We move not just as soldiers, but as a force of hope. Let our actions speak for humanity's spirit." The ground teams descended into the storm. The fierce winds and rain made the journey difficult, but the teams pressed on. Every step was careful and deliberate, knowing the importance of what lay ahead. Inside the fortress, the enemy was not waiting with anger or violence, but with a strange stillness. The warlord's power was in control, but also in fear. Fear of losing what had been taken for so long. Using the ancient devices, the engineers aboard the fleet sent waves of energy to disrupt the enemy's systems. The fortress's control over the land began to weaken. Slowly the storms calmed and the dark clouds started to break. On the ground, the teams found survivors hidden within the fortress walls. those who had been silenced but never defeated. The reunion was quiet, but filled with hope. The strength of the people was clear, shining through the darkness of years past. Captain Rourke watched as the mission unfolded, his heart full of pride for the crew and the allies who had stood together through every challenge. The warlord's grip was breaking, not through force but through trust, unity, and understanding. The planet's wild nature began to show signs of healing. The scars left by war started to fade, replaced by new growth and light. The journey had been long and hard, but it was also a story of resilience. As the fleet prepared to leave, the survivors and the crew exchanged promises. Promises to protect this new beginning, to remember the lessons learned, and to carry the spirit of hope into the future. Captain Rourke looked one last time at the planet below, a world forever changed by the courage of many. The story of humanity had reached a new chapter, one written not in conflict but in connection. The stars called the fleet home, but the journey was far from over. The universe was vast, full of mysteries and challenges, but also full of hope. Humanity would be ready,